8 a.m. The blare of your bedside alarm cuts through the morning stillness. Your arm with a mind of its own lurches from under the covers, fumbling for the elusive snooze button. There, got it. Peace, quiet. 10 more minutes of blessed unconsciousness. 10 more minutes before the tedium of your daily routine sets in. You climb out of bed and begin the slow march towards the bathroom. You splash some water on your face, brush your teeth, throw on some clothes. Hey, PJs are still clothes, right? As the coffee machine ekes out your morning brew, you scroll through your Facebook feed. All right then, you think, taking a long sip from your mug, time for work. Sitting down to your computer, you fire up Slack, GitHub, and Gmail and do a quick scan to see what's on deck. A few tasks assigned to you catch your attention. Damn, you mumble to yourself, I should probably get going. You go through the motions. You move through the work. You dutifully write your lines of code. All along, though, pesky thoughts show up like a background application running in your mind. Do these tasks even matter? Are they helping? Who are they helping? If they aren't helping, why not? Are they even the right tasks to do? Am I the right person to do them? You don't know the answers to all those questions, but then again, nobody really asked you. Come to think of it, you get the sense that nobody on this project thinks much about you at all. If not for the daily 2-hour stand-up later today, 2 hours? Seriously? It's like no one would even notice if you dropped off the map altogether. All that matters is that you keep checking off those tasks at a relatively reasonable rate. Otherwise, you could easily recede into the background, and very few, if any, would catch on. At the end of the day, you're an icon on a screen, an avatar on your Slack profile. Whatever you say to yourself, taking another sip from your now lukewarm coffee, a job is a job. Does this sound like you? Do you feel bored at work, enduring the monotony of taking tickets and checking off tasks in GitHub? Or alternatively, do you feel stressed at work? A barrage of tickets and tasks are flooding in and you can't get to them all? You can't check them off that fast? Do you feel frustrated at work because of a sneaking suspicion that management doesn't know what it's doing and that you might be able to help if they ever ask you? Do you feel unfulfilled at work? A sense that you're better than this? That you'd like to be more useful, more creative, more challenged? Do you feel insecure at work? Coming to the frightening realization that anyone can do this stuff and you're totally replaceable? Well, the good news is you're not alone. Many developers in our industry feel the same way. These feelings of boredom, stress, insecurity, they're common. The bad news is these feelings aren't just going to pass, and that's because the feelings are really only symptoms of a much larger and more fundamental problem. You think of yourself as a robot, a machine. Robots do their job without making a fuss. Who cares if a robot is bored, stressed, unfulfilled, or insecure? A robot doesn't need to feel good about what it's doing. A robot just needs to crank out results and not ask too many questions. A robot is obedient, compliant, and robots are compatible with the classic task-based workflow model. Authority, information, and tasks flow from the top to the bottom. Everyone knows their place. If you have senior or lead attached to your name, you get to tell all of the little people, the robots, what to do. And the robots are supposed to trust the managers that if they do those tasks, it'll all work out. Just put your head down, get busy, and check off those tasks as best and as quickly as you humanly or robotly can. To be fair, there are real advantages to all this task-based, top-down, robot-supported approach. The chain of command is crystal clear. Everyone knows who's in charge. There is little risk for chaos or confusion. For some, that kind of system can feel really comforting. Everything is nice and tidy, and in theory, it should work. But the thing is, it doesn't work, and it makes people feel crappy too. When a person is suffering from recurring headaches, they've got a fairly obvious and pressing concern. They're in a lot of pain. So they rush to the doctor. The doctor says, "All right now, let's have a look." The doctor, thanks to his extensive medical training, has a lot of methods at his disposal to figure out the problem and address the concern at hand. He can review the patient's medical history, he can check the patient's vitals, he could do blood work, he can ask for an MRI. The patient doesn't really care. The patient just wants one thing, for his head to stop pounding. Although we here at Clevertech deal in lines of code as opposed to headaches, we're essentially doing the same thing. Clients come to us with concerns, and we in turn bring the tools, the know-how, and the experience to bear in addressing that concern. Here's a real-life example. A client recently came to us with a tall order. They needed to deliver one app to the App Store that would have over 40 different variations. Each division of the company had a different look and feel, requiring its own variation of the app. The company knew exactly the result that they wanted, but they had no idea how to get there. Now, this was no walk in the park. There was no manual to follow, no textbook solution. That kind of unknown can be daunting, uncomfortable, even overwhelming. But what pushed our team past those negative moods and into more productive ones was precisely this idea of attaching to the concern. The client had a problem. Overcoming that problem was integral to their success. And despite the difficulty, we were in a position to help better their situation. Understanding the context for our work and how we were making a difference both activated and inspired the team to find a viable solution. And find it they did. The team discovered a way to deliver one app from the App Store that would essentially act as a shell to sub-apps that could decipher which section of the company each user is a part of. They did this by injecting a custom hybrid Ionic application into the existing codebase, rather than the typical native experience that would then go on to download and present each sub-application. A nifty maneuver that did not just deliver on the client's expectations, but transcended them. This ultimately is why business can be so meaningful and so satisfying. It isn't just about the lines of code that you're writing, it's about helping another person better their current situation by addressing something that directly concerns them. In a concern-based model, business really is about making the world a better place. Go ahead, roll your eyes, ring the cliche bell. Doesn't mean it isn't true. And that, my friends, is why it sucks to be a robot. Because robots, generally speaking, don't enjoy the satisfaction of dealing directly with the client's concerns. They don't get to think creatively about how to address those concerns. And they certainly don't get to question the higher-up's decision about how to address those concerns. Usually, they aren't even aware of the concern in the first place. There, little robot, good little robot, just do your tasks. This isn't an oversight, it's by design. The big dogs, the fancy executives, they see themselves as the capable ones, the real stakeholders, the ones that can be trusted to learn about the client's concern and develop a fancy strategy around it. Once all that important work is done, the strategy gets broken down into smaller goals, which get broken down further into even smaller tasks. Tasks that eventually get fed to the robots. When all the tasks are done, the higher-ups start piecing it all back together again and eventually hand back the product to the client. But like I said before, while this should work in theory, it doesn't in practice. A camel is a horse designed by committee. That's often what the final product looks like in these situations. And of course, it does. There was no communication established. There was no context given. There was no motivation provided. There was no opportunity to understand the big picture, let alone take responsibility for it. There were just tasks sent down the chain of command. No wonder the final product was a complete disaster. Ultimately, the question that you need to ask yourself is, how do you see yourself? What is it that you want to be? What kind of work are you hoping to do? Are you a robot, just managing the inputs and outputs? Maybe you do see yourself that way, and there's nothing wrong with that. In fact, if that's the case, then your job is pretty simple, isn't it? It's just about checking those items off the list. But for many of us, being a robot isn't enough. There's very little growth in that. There's very little meaning in that. You want more. You don't want to mindlessly check items off of a to-do list. You want to bring your talent, creativity, and empathy to bear in solving real problems that matter to real people. You want to address real concerns so that you can add real value. There is, of course, a catch. When dealing directly with your client's concerns, your work matters more. Yes, that's true. But you also, suddenly, have more responsibility. You aren't just beholden to a to-do list, you are beholden to a human being on the other end of this transaction. Before, you could simply chalk up all of the breakdowns that you encountered to bad management. It's always the boss's fault. It's always about what they did. God, they're so freaking out of touch. If they were better organized, we wouldn't be in this position. But when you step to the plate as a real stakeholder, when you start dealing with the client directly and addressing their concerns, you can't get away with that. You've got to take ownership over the outcomes you are looking to achieve. And that is hard to do. It can be scary, but it's also the gateway to a more meaningful work experience. Okay, you're ready to give it a go. Tasks and tickets and GitHub be damned. You're gonna take out your phone and give the client a ring. You're gonna dazzle them with incisive questions and get to the heart of their concern. You're gonna show them how they think they know what they want, but really that's all bullshit. And you've got just the plan that will blast them into orbit. Slow down, partner. First, it's important not to get ahead of yourself. Remember why you are here. To help better the client's situation. It's about them. When you set out to engage with a client as a stakeholder as opposed to a robot, you've got to approach it with humility. Their business is their business. They've got 15 to 20 years of experience in forming their decisions. That's not to say you can't offer innovative solutions or challenge their way of doing things. It just means don't be so cavalier about it. Even more importantly, this isn't a gimmick. I'm not peddling tricks or shortcuts here. You don't get to plop down in front of the client, parrot a script about what is your concern, and expect everything to come out rainbows and unicorns. This isn't about following a checklist. This is about developing a sensitivity to the human element of business. It's about establishing and cultivating a relationship with the client. It's about showing the client that you appreciate their concern by showing up to that relationship with curiosity and enthusiasm. So how do you show up for the client in this way? How do you shed your robot identity? Luckily, I've got a tool to identify concerns and coordinate action around addressing those concerns. And that tool is conversation. Conversation? I can almost hear you muttering through the screen. Really? That's your big reveal? I've had millions of conversations in my life. I'm plenty capable in that area. But what I have found is that conversation is rarely as simple as we think. Conversations leave a lot unsaid. Conversations constantly break down. Conversations are messy. We often say one thing and mean another. To really hone our skills as linguistic beings so that we can master the dynamic work of investigating concerns, that's hard work. It's about more than learning some tips and tricks. It's about conditioning yourself to see the world a certain way. We're not going to learn that from watching a video. You're going to learn it through continual practice. I'm not simply sharing all of this with you out of the goodness of my own heart. Activating employees to shed their robot identities and address concerns directly isn't just lovey-dovey feel-good stuff. It's also really good for business. It cuts down on waste and makes our systems more efficient. It also allows for more growth. With a legion of robots, a business owner needs to have an eye on every account. He needs to remain responsible for the desired outcome. You can only take on so many accounts under those circumstances. But when robots morph into full stakeholders, when they're able to speak with a client about their concerns and organize around it, when they can shoulder that responsibility, the company can grow. That said, this is about more than the bottom line. This is about showing people a way to love what they do, to feel proud about their work, to see how it's really helping people. It's these skills that transform our work from routine and uninspired to meaningful and fulfilling. And this is the kind of work that we're going to learn and practice together in the coming videos. Hey there! I hope you enjoyed this video and perhaps learned a little something. If the way we're talking about technology and business speaks to you, then consider clicking the link below to learn more about Clevertech and available positions. We're always looking for talented developers for our team. And if you think you'd be a good fit, we'd love to get to know you. And don't forget to subscribe to our channel for the next video in the series and lots of other content. Thanks for watching.